Have you ever wondered about the capital structure and the impact of taxes? And how is the government dealing with capital structure with its tax policies? There is only one way to find out. That is, you have to study transfer pricing, you have to know capital structure. And there are only a few people who understand this. And this is for them who love economics beyond the both of these subjects. So let's get started. Now, if you have heard about thin capitalization, well, it's good. If you haven't heard about it, I'll show you what it is. But first, we need to understand what is the impact of taxes in a capital structure. Well, generally, when there is a tax, the interest payments are tax deductible, and therefore, any inclusion of debt, or to say that leverage, increases the valuation of the firm. That is, the value of firm increases because the cost of debt is cheaper than cost of equity. This is shown by two models. First, the Modigliani-Miller model without taxes, where it shows without having a tax advantage, having debt is of no use. Whereas on the other side, when there is tax, there is an advantage to use debt and it increases the value of the firm. Let me show you how. So this is the model without taxes. You can see the weighted average cost of capital remains same regardless of the debt to equity ratio. And the impact being the value of firm is constant. It's the same regardless. But on the other hand, when there are taxes, you can see the cost of capital is declining, which means the value of the firm is increasing as we start to use debt. Well, extreme forms of debt would increase the credit risk and also bankruptcy risk. It would mean that the cost of equity will shoot up and therefore the value of firm will go down in sooner or later circumstances. But again, think about it. What if we just issue something that is just not leverage? It's quasi equity. You can take loans from your group companies and it's not leverage, it's debt allocation. Well, that is what thin capitalization means. You are taking debt from one of your group companies to lever your entity. Well, as far as I can remember, I was doing this course from Ashwath Damodaran about corporate finance. And he told something about raising debt and how it impacts the valuation. You have to always tell the analyst that this is debt. We are not liquidating our EPS. But you have to tell the credit ratings, see, this is not debt. We are raising quasi debt. This is not borrowings per se. And you have to tell the tax man that, okay, this is debt. Its payment should be tax deductible. Else they will recharacterize it to dividends and therefore you'll lose your tax advantage. So this is something to think about. What are we doing? We are giving out a loan to our group company in order to lever it for tax advantage purposes. This is done at a very large scale, at a scale which you and I cannot fathom. Things like, I have a group and that group has a treasury function that is situated in Mauritius, a place which is a tax haven. The group company which is in Mauritius lends money to my group, to my subsidiaries in India, which are operating, creating revenues, earning real profits. But it is financed, its capital is financed by a loan from a Mauritius company. What the Indian company does is pay interest to such company in Mauritius and claims tax reduction in India. Whereas the company in Mauritius, they just pay merely 10-15% tax because it does not have a PE in India, according to the DTAA. But it's clearly taking an advantage of the tax arbitrage. The Indian company would be taxed around 30% or upwards, given its revenues, given its scale. But whereas in Mauritius, it would be taxed at 15%. So earning the group at least 10 to 15% of arbitrage of tax without doing anything. This is called thin capitalization. There are two ways to stop thin capitalization. One is you recharacterize the debt into equity And the payments of interest, they become payments of dividend, which is of course a tough task. You cannot characterize a transaction of a repayable nature into equity, which is obviously non-repayable. So that is kind of wrong. The second way is to limit it. That is what the Indian authorities did when they introduced 94B. They introduced a 30% cap on the EBITDA, that you can only pay interest up to the 30% of your EBITDA, not more than that. This is a strange approach because you must see whether the Indian company is over-levered or not as compared to its whole group. To say that if the whole group is over-leveraged, how do I say the Indian company is over-leveraged or it is abusing tax? Well, its operations are highly leveraged. Well, on the other hand, if the Indian company is over-leveraged in comparison to its other group companies, then I can say that there is some mens rea. You are trying to avoid taxes. Now, this is my 2-bit on thin capitalization. Nothing to discuss about income tax as per se, but it is a tax avoidance strategy, which is of course curtailed by 94B, even though there is a loophole which I don't want to discuss. Well, thank you for watching.